Hey guys, this is Ricky G Reviews here doing a review of a book. Three books actually. This one here is called The Theater by Raven Gregory and Novo Malgado. This is a very thin book, easy to get through in about an hour or less, depending on how fast you read. This is an independent publisher. I think it's Zenoscope. I don't think I've heard of them before. Now here's a synopsis. You could pause it if you want. Basically, it's like a theater that shows these scary movies, and the comic is just chapters, and each chapter is a different scary movie that's playing in the theater. This first one is very strong. It's about zombies, and it's just a very good story. But and there's other stories, and as the stories go on or as the movies are playing, it intercuts with what's actually happening to the people inside of the theater, and there's mysterious things going on. And if this was maybe 2 volumes, or the authors got to complete their story, it would have been stronger. But it I'm not sure if there's a second volume to this, and it kind of ends like kind of open-ended. Um, but I think there's 6 stories or so in here, and of the 6 stories, I think there's 2 very strong ones, and the other ones are very interesting. But I think it's worth the read just for the interesting, little stories or like vignettes. This one here, the whole is really good. The first one's really good too. The artwork is pretty cool too, especially if you like horror. There's kind of horror elements throughout, and it's pretty good. Check it out if you see it in your bargain bins. And the next book I want to talk about is The U.S. War Machine. I got this book at, I think, Bedrock City Comics, yeah, for $2 over there in Houston. Very good comic book store. I've seen this one before, and I honestly would have picked this up earlier, previous times I've seen it, if it was in color. But it's not in color, so it felt kind of cheap. So at $2, couldn't pass it up. It's a pretty interesting, thick story. I got this on vacation. I read it in the hotel. Has kind of like a manga kind of look to it, but it reads normally. And the story focuses on Rhodey, of course, and he has the Iron Man suit, or the War Machine suit. And the story is about him and, I guess, a longtime friend. They have conflicting outlooks on life. I'm not gonna spoil the story, but in some ways he has to get together with Shield, to stop the bad guys, of course, and they have a team of war machines. And so I think there's about 6 people, mostly male. I think there's 1 female on the team, and they all wearing war machine suits, and they go on a couple adventures together. And it's really about Rhodey becoming a leader, or how he manages the team. Since it's black and white, a little bit of the action is kind of confusing sometimes, but overall it's really good. And if you can see here, they're Max Comics, so it's kind of like a rated R type deal. There's blood, there's really traumatic injuries, and it's really graphic. I think they curse. I think you might see some boobs on here, but it's cool because there's some unexpected characters that come in here, like Dark Hawk and a couple others that I won't spoil. Nick Fury is pretty cool in the book. The weaknesses in the book are definitely the color. I think it would really benefit from color. It's cool reading it in this style, I guess, if you want it to. It kind of like feels like a manga. That doesn't really carry the story or anything like that. The other thing is the story is kind of, I don't know, it's trying to the story is trying to say things about race and military and it's just it doesn't know what it wants to be. I think it's just they just threw in a lot in here to try to like say something, try to make statements, but I guess just because of the banner that they have, but they didn't. It doesn't help the story at all. So that's the only thing I would say. There's like some weird stuff about race, and it doesn't have anything to do with anything in the book. But it's pretty interesting. It's not the roadie that I know from the comics. That's another thing. This is a self-contained story. So when Tony Stark is mentioned, or seen, it's not really with any context. So you don't really know what the history is with the characters and why. If you find it in the bargain books for a bargain price for $2, it's pretty good to have. Interesting, worth the read, I guess. Alright, so now we have Shmobots, and this is again very similar to all the other books. I think, well, this one and the theater I got at the same time. This is by Boom Comics. And here's a blurb by Stan Lee, and he gives it praise. So you know it's a good story. This is by far the best story of the bunch. This story is really good. I really enjoyed this story, and I really enjoyed the artwork. Cover is very nice. That's what got me. I was like, what's going on here? So I picked it up. I just read the back, which you can pause and read. And it's basically a story about like a futuristic world that doesn't really stray from our modern world right now. It looks pretty similar. The only difference is that the world is more automated than it used to be. And they wanted to make a bunch of awesome robots to do all the jobs. But it turns out that the robots, you know, are pretty lazy, and there's a lot of robots that don't perform the jobs that they're supposed to. They're slackers, they're schmoes just like everybody else. Robots have become integrated with society, or kind of like people are. And this story is about a guy that befriends 3 Shmobots, that's what they're called, and it's very insulting. And it's about them just trying to find a way to break out of their rut. They're not doing so well. They're very low on money. They play. They're in a rock band, and the story is them leading up to this big gig that they have. And there's some conflict with the main character and his father. There's conflict between the robots because, you know, one of the robots wants to get a good job, and the other robots don't really support him that much, and they call him names. And this is, I guess, kind of like this is kind of like a rated R book too, because they curse in it and stuff. But it just makes it more real. It's a really good story. The personalities here they come through. Each character has a different personality. The conflicts that arise from them is really funny. And it's just a really easy story to read. They're not trying to save the world or anything like that. They're just trying to have something good. They're just trying to make it. You know, they don't have a lot to go off of. But it's really good. It's really funny. I don't want to say anything because I went into this blindly, and I was just enjoying every page. I was really invested in all the characters because they all had goals. You know, the kid just wants to have a good break. One of the robots just wants to become a rock star and have all the girls and everything like that. One of the robots isn't like too invested in that and wants to, find a job and do good things and be a good robot. Another robot's just kind of there for the ride. And there's also another dark kind of element going on in the sidelines of the story, and it all comes together really nicely. It's really a fun read, and the book is really nice too. Very glossy, very thick, nice pages. So it's a really nice book, and it came together very well. It is written by Adam Brickfin. I know he's a director, I believe. And I would definitely read whatever he writes if I ever see it, because this was a really good book. That he kind of has clashing ideals. He has clashing ideas, or robots, I would say. But and there's other, and it's hard to flip through this book. Each character has a different personality. It's a fun read, conflicting outlooks on life, and they have to in